It's the middle of the day. The sun is high overhead, and then there's a second light in the sky. Not the sun, something smaller but somehow fiercer. A hard white point burning so bright that when you lift your hand against it, it throws a shadow at your feet at noon. You have no word for what you're seeing. Nobody does. Nothing in your entire world has ever prepared you for a star that has caught fire in the daytime. It happened more than once, and we can prove it because ancient people wrote it down in careful detail across 3 continents. And thousands of years before any of them, someone may have knelt down and carved it into stone. This is the story of the day a star exploded and the humans who stood underneath it and watched. Start with the brightest, the single brightest thing any human being has ever recorded seeing in the sky, before or since. The year is 1006. In the spring, people all over the world look up and notice a new star, low in the southern sky, in a place where no star had ever been. And it is not a normal star. Over a few nights, it swells into something monstrous. Astronomers today estimate it reached an apparent magnitude of around -7.5. If that number means nothing to you, here's what it means. It was roughly 16 times brighter than Venus, the brightest planet we ever see. It was bright enough to see in broad daylight, and at night it did something almost no celestial object other than the moon can do. It cast shadows, and it lit up the ground. We know this because the people who saw it were not superstitious peasants. They were some of the sharpest observers of their age. An Egyptian astronomer named Ali ibn Ridwan, who was a young man at the time, wrote that the new star was 2 to 3 times the size of Venus, and that its light shone so strongly on the Earth at night that you could see by it. In China, court astronomers logged it. In Japan, in Iraq, in Italy, in Switzerland, monks and scholars independently recorded the same impossible new star flaring in the south. Half the literate world, with no way of talking to each other, all wrote down the same thing at the same time. Something in the sky is on fire. What none of them could possibly know is what they were actually looking at. That wasn't a new star being born. It was a star dying. A sun far bigger than our own, tearing itself apart in an explosion so violent that its light crossed roughly 7,000 years of empty space to reach that particular sky on that particular night. They were watching a death that had already happened before their civilization even existed, and it was so bright it turned night into a kind of dusk. That's the brightest one, but it's not the most haunting one, because there's another exploding star our ancestors watched, and this one you can still see the wreckage of tonight. The year is 1054, and here is a detail that should give you chills. The Chinese astronomers who recorded it dated their first sighting to the 4th of July, nearly 1,000 years ago, almost to the day you're watching this. Song Dynasty astronomers in China saw a brilliant new star appear near the horns of Taurus, the bull. They called it a guest star, Ke Zhiang, because that was their poetic term for a star that arrives, stays a while, and then leaves. And this guest overstayed in the most spectacular way. According to their records, it was visible in full daylight for 23 days. For over 3 weeks, it burned bright enough to be seen next to the sun. And after that, it lingered in the night sky, slowly fading, for nearly 2 years before it finally disappeared. Now here's the part that turns a dry historical record into something that reaches across 1,000 years and grabs you. That exploding star did not vanish. The blast threw out a cloud of glowing, shredded gas, the guts of the dead star, and that cloud is still out there, still expanding, still glowing. We have photographed it. You have almost certainly seen it. It's one of the most famous objects in the night sky. We call it the Crab Nebula. So sit with the strangeness of that. A Chinese astronomer stood in a courtyard 1,000 years ago and watched a point of light blaze in the daytime and slowly die. And you can point a telescope at that exact spot tonight and see the wreckage of the very same explosion, still drifting outward in the dark. The same event. Him with his eyes, you with a camera, 1,000 years apart, looking at the same dying star. So far, everything I've told you is rock solid. Written records, cross-checked across continents, a nebula you can photograph. But it raises an obvious, gnawing question. Writing is only a few thousand years old. Supernovae don't wait for us to invent the alphabet. So what about all the ones that lit up the daytime sky before anyone could write a single word? Did people see those too? And is there any way at all, that they could have told us? Maybe. And this is where the story gets tantalizing, and where I have to be very honest with you. In the Kashmir Valley, at a Stone Age settlement called Burzahom, there's a carved stone. On it, a hunting scene, figures, a large animal, and up in the sky, two bright objects. For a long time, everyone assumed the two objects were just the sun and the moon. But a team of Indian astrophysicists, researchers named Vahia, Yoglekar, and Sule, argued something far bolder. They proposed that the carving isn't really a hunting scene at all. They suggested it's a sky chart, and that one of those two bright objects is a supernova, specifically a star we know exploded in that region of the sky thousands of years ago, called HB9. If they are right, that stone would be the oldest record of an exploding star ever made by a human hand. And here's where I have to stop and be straight with you, because that honesty is the whole point of this channel. Most scholars are skeptical of this, deeply skeptical. The dates don't line up cleanly. The supernova is estimated at over 6,000 years ago, but the settlement and the carving itself appear to be significantly younger, which is a real problem for the theory. Rock art is notoriously easy to overread. Humans are pattern-finding machines, and we badly want the two dots to be a star. So this is not a fact. It is a maybe, a beautiful, unproven maybe. But even as just a maybe, it does something to me. Because whether or not that one carving is a supernova, we know for a certainty that prehistoric people saw these explosions. The sky didn't wait for writing. Some Stone Age human somewhere stood under a star that caught fire in the daytime and had no idea what it was. And that is the part I keep coming back to. Forget the science for a second. Forget the magnitudes and the nebulae. Just imagine being them. You live in a world where the sky is the one thing that never changes. The sun crosses, the moon phases, the same stars wheel overhead in the same shapes your grandmother pointed out and her grandmother before her. The sky is the definition of permanent. It is the thing you steer your whole life by. And then one morning it breaks. A new light, out of nowhere, so bright it burns through the daylight and refuses to leave. What do you do with that? You have no astronomy, no concept of other suns, so it has to mean something. Is it an omen? A warning of famine, of war? Is it a god opening an eye? Is it a great chief who has died, and this is his soul burning? Is it a birth? People must have wept. People must have been terrified. People must have stood in small, silent groups and simply looked up, night after night, at a thing that shouldn't exist, waiting to find out if the world was ending. That feeling, that awe, that fear, that reaching for meaning is maybe the most human thing there is. And a star's death is what pulled it out of them. So let me leave you with the thought that genuinely keeps me up at night. This is not over. It's going to happen again, and it might happen to you. There's a star called Betelgeuse. You can find it right now. It's the bright reddish shoulder of Orion, the hunter, one of the easiest stars in the whole sky to spot. And Betelgeuse is dying. It's a colossal aging star near the end of its life. And at some point, it is going to collapse and explode as a supernova. When it does, it will flare up so brightly that for weeks, it will be visible in our daytime sky. A second point of light next to the sun, exactly like the one our ancestors saw. It could happen 100,000 years from now. It could, as far as anyone knows, happen tonight. And when it finally does, you will be the ancient human. You'll be the one standing under a star that's on fire in the daytime, feeling that same jolt of awe your ancestors felt 6,000 years ago. The only difference is that you'll know what it is. And maybe, thousands of years from now, someone will look back at whatever we leave behind and wonder what it felt like to be alive on the day we watched a star die. If you want to be standing with us when that light finally arrives, subscribe, and I'll see you under the next one.